Part of my Himijoshi life these days is keeping an eye on what the new Yuri manga are. There are many modern series I adore, like A Love Yet to Bloom, The Moon on a Rainy Night, Con Cafe, etc. These stories that have made their mark on me in some shape or form, doing their best to tell their stories, even if some face a tragedy that is cancellation. A bunch of Yuri I've experienced throughout the past few years have been memorable experiences in their own right. But what I want to focus on today are the new Yuri, the manga that are still in their infancies, presenting stories that have the potential to be with the greats that I previously mentioned. All these stories have their humble beginnings, and I think there's merit in checking out what they're like in that era. If you've been following this channel for a bit, you know I made a video last year about this sort of topic, and I guess it wouldn't hurt to give a quick look back on how those turned out. If you don't care about this, then there'll probably be a chapter you can skip to. Love Bullet is still going incredibly strong. Chapters have been somewhat scarce, but the series is putting forward an extremely compelling storyline for Enna that is igniting a similar level of attention from me as when it initially grabbed me with its hook. Still one of the goats of modern day Yuri, and I hope you've been reading it by now. Love and Dreams Don't Mix ended pretty quickly after I initially talked about it. It was designed to be a very short and sweet series, and I think it did that job well. I like going back to it every now and then just to see these adorable girls again. Hikaru will forever go down as the girl who pulled the coolest girl ever by being silly. She'll always be a legend to me. Haru's Regista has still been a really fun time. A lot of characters have been introduced by this point, and they all have such colorful personalities, while Haru's grumpy attitude continues to act as a solid center to it all. It's got a wackiness that keeps me coming back, and along with fiery dynamics developing between these girls that I'm seated to see progress. And finally, Howling's Song for Husky Girl continues to be a very solid manga, with a really endearing main duo. It's kept a steady pace of quality since I talked about it last time, with some new characters and developments here and there to keep things fresh. I hope this one continues for a while, and potentially gains its own following just like many other Yuri did before. Alright, we're done talking about all those older Yuri. It's time for the freshest of the fresh to shine. Prepare to get hit with even more real-ass manga. I'll ask a very simple question to the lesbians of the world. Has it ever been your dream to be the body pillow of an incredibly handsome woman? No, please don't ask me that question myself. I'm still contemplating my own desires. The Moon Does Not Count Sheep doesn't shy away from the fantasy fulfillment side of its story, but this is a case where I do not mind because the fantasy being presented to me is incredibly fun and unique. Tachibana Himeka was a high school girl working her damnedest to support herself amidst having a deadbeat father, stuck in a life where relaxation and the ability to enjoy her high school youth seemed to be nothing more than a pipe dream. That is until getting isekai'd into your typical fantasy world, where she has been summoned for one simple role, to help cure the prince's insomnia, to which she is magically able to do through physical comfort with the prince. I also feel the need to state that the prince is a woman, but you probably already knew that, given this is a Yuri video. This is one of those manga where you quickly understand what you're here for after reading the first chapter. A story with a fluffy concept, but has enough bite to it to make it worthwhile. One of the things I took notice of immediately when reading this was how pretty the art style is. Similar to their last work, The Anemone Feels the Heat, Sakuragi Ren's artwork has this beautiful glow to it that suits the whimsical fantasy of this manga's world. In particular, it adds this glossy layer of handsomeness to the prince that I'm sure all the girl princes of the world will love. Himeka, on the other hand, can't help but be incredibly annoyed at how legitimately dashing she can be, which adds this delicious layer of competitiveness to their relationship. Himeka's rebellious attitude to the prince is driven from not wanting to take any sort of pretentious authority after being treated like crap for most of her life, and the prince's own pride will simply not take that lying down, creating this level of spice in their dynamic that I am totally seated for, as their lives are ultimately improved by what the other can offer to them, currently through the fact that one gets paid lucratively and the other gets healthy sleep, but we shall see how invested these two become in each other as people over time. The moments in which they're sleeping together are also incredibly cute, and have a level of intimacy that I'll be curious to see how they'll build off of as the story continues. Shout out to the moments when the two accidentally kiss and the prince immediately falls asleep. I thought that was adorable and junk. Okay, I don't always have the most in-depth comments to make on moments like this. Sometimes I just think they're neat, and there's a lot of things in this manga that make me go, that's pretty neat. Besides that, there are a few supporting cast members who may add some extra spice to the story, especially if they are given Yuri of their own, but I'm already plenty invested in whatever the heck these two have going on. I can't say for certain how deep this manga will become, but if anything about this premise has sounded interesting to you, I think it's a safe bet that you'll like this one. It should make a nice addition to your usual Yuri reading. For the young sapphic, you may face the dilemma such as, your girl bestie is considering dating a guy. And the off chance that this happens, you should follow in the footsteps of Yuki, who when in this situation, simply yelled that her best friend should just choose her if she's going to date anyone. The results of this act can vary, but the girl in question, Asuka, agreed in earnest, and now these two are a couple. Let us hope that Yuki's hearts will be able to handle how good Asuka is at moving said hearts. Yeah, that's basically the premise of Friend Girlfriend, a story about two girls who've been friends their entire lives, changing the status of their relationship, with both reacting to it in very different ways. From the chapters I've read, an element of their dynamic I've been enjoying a lot is how well these girls contrast each other. On a surface level, Yuki fulfills the archetype of the delinquent Gyaru, a girl who enjoys doing what she wants and can be quite the gremlin depending on the situation. By contrast, it would be expected Asuka, as the straight-laced student, would be the most thrown off by a social situation she has no experience in. But this manga very much takes the reverse route. Asuka's sincerity as a loving partner shines in every page she's in. To her, is this exciting means of getting even closer to the girl she's loved being around her whole life. Planning out amusement park dates, speaking openly about how happy Yuki makes her even in the smallest ways, making sure to spend time with Yuki even when she's busy with other responsibilities. Asuka treats her relationship with Yuki with the same attentiveness as she would any other aspect of her life, but with the added passion born from loving another person dearly. This is a level of sincerity that Yuki was not at all prepared for. What were once the simplest interactions, such as holding hands, have become these heart-pounding moments of intimacy that make Yuki a blushing mess. In truth, Asuka being her only friend throughout her life ends up highlighting how socially insecure she is due to how she's relied on her. This social ineptity blatantly blends into her newfound relationship, as well as anytime she has to interact with others, becoming like a shy little cat when faced with anyone more energetic than she can handle. This manga's art supports all these back and forth emotions she goes through. The art style is fairly simple, but that allows it to morph these characters into whatever shape the tone needs. If you are a lover of blorbos, then you are going to have a blast looking at these girls become little creatures in virtually every page. Even if you don't find every panel hilarious, it's at least a sure bet that you'll be charmed by the art. It makes those moments where they go all in with depicting the romance between these two hit even harder. One second, Asuka will be an adorable little blob, and in the next, she's the prettiest girl Yuki has ever laid eyes on. I think the greatest appeal of this manga so far is getting to watch someone realize how much a person they've spent so much time with means to them, allowing their heart to be overwhelmed by a newfound feeling of love, embracing this confusing but ultimately thrilling experience. It's a sweet little romance that I think anyone wanting to have their heart warmed should check out. I'm having a super fun time following it, and I can't wait to see what happens next with these two lovebirds. I'm curious if anyone has seen or read Girls Last Tour. It was a fascinating little series about two girls exploring a desolate world that has since reached its end. They run into a few characters, discover unique locations, and share a number of cute moments with each other. There's a kind of vibe to this type of story that I can't help but be drawn to, and it's one of my favorite series that I have come across in my anime and manga journey. I bring all this up because it was the first story that came to mind as I started reading our next Yuri, Girls' Interstellar Adventure. On paper, the premise is pretty simple. Due to Earth becoming uninhabitable as a result of pollution, two girls travel across the galaxy on their flying carriage in search of a planet they could settle in. Okay, the carriage part is pretty unique, but it's a pretty cool take on a spaceship. The story follows these girls as they learn about the strange oddities and somewhat alarming revelations each of these planets have to offer. Some have a horror-esque twist, like a planet where nature is flourishing, but you will slowly turn into a vine person that loses all individuality as your soul is eaten away by the planet itself, Jesus Christ. Or they can be more somber in execution, such as a planet where the souls of your loved ones will reside as memories, eventually causing you to be another soul just like them as you're stuck in time forever, always existing in the past where some may be content or others would prefer to move on from their old lives. It has a very episodic format where each chapter is about a different planet, with some chapters being these long-form narratives or these bite-sized stories in service of cute character moments and some further world building. This is the kind of series where there are two important factors, the worlds themselves and the main duo, and when it comes to the latter, I am incredibly charmed by these two girls. Ridley is the eccentric scientist constantly observant of the world they visit, and can explain things pretty clearly when given enough info. Very much the brains of the group with a past she does not have much to reminisce about, but still has a heart kinder than she may give credit for, in the face of all the cosmic horrors they encounter. She can be very matter-of-fact about a planet's odds of survival, but will still go out of her way to leave information that can increase their chances. Despite Watari's shy nature, she is the muzzle of the group. Whenever the two reach a situation where they have to defend themselves, she comes in to deal with any threat using her superhuman level of combat abilities, delivering a level of fierceness in her demeanor whenever these moments come. She was subjected to human experiments for military efforts, and now uses what she was put through in that time to defend herself and someone she cares deeply for. It's an adorable clash how, despite this skill set, she is a very soft person who doesn't have that same emotional resilience as Ridley, a girl who had only herself to rely on as she was isolated in a research facility during her childhood. Before the world ended, Watari had a home she could call her own, one with a family and a girl she had her own feelings towards, but all that is no more, as she seeks for a place to be just like Ridley. The two come from different places, but find comfort in each other's presence, loving how the other fills the hole in each other's heart, as they soar across the galaxy facing whatever the universe throws at them. It's the kind of story that no matter how grim or strange their encounters become, there's a soft emotional core present all throughout that can make this an incredibly warm time. And no matter what, the vibes are off the chart with this manga because this art style is one of the most mesmerizing I've seen this year. The cute character designs are combined with this detailed, grainy texture paired with these backgrounds that are often vivid in appearance, conveying what they need to with well-marked strokes of ink, while space is like this void of black, offset by all these white stars giving life to this place filled with emptiness. Each page is like looking at something ripped right out of a sketchbook, and it makes every page turn all the more lovely to experience, along with this simply being a great manga because if it wasn't obvious by everything I've said so far, this is one that appeals to me a lot, but I also simply believe this is a great series that I think more people should check out. Some people may challenge the validity of this as Yuri, considering the main two aren't labeled as quote romantic partners, as in they're not specifically referred to as girlfriends, but when we have a series so incredibly focused on the relationship between two girls, where their bond is constantly highlighted in each storyline with I love yous being casually dropped throughout, I think this qualifies as Yuri for this video, and it's not like that type of romantic alignment has to be the end-all be-all for Yuri, but someone may get mad at me for saying that, so I'm just gonna keep quiet a bit. Also, it's tagged as girls love on manga sites, so we're selling it there. Don't debate me in the comments on this, please. Or do, it helps the video. Our last one for today is one of the most interesting new Yuri I've been following as of late, and that's because it doesn't really have your typical structure of starring two main girls. I mean, it technically does have that, but there isn't any romance. But also, there is romance, so I should probably start from the top. Our teacher Hase Hotaru has a bit of what we could call a rebellious student situation. The situation being that this girl named Nekome Yuna won't actually do the assignments and will instead constantly draw Miss Shiratori, another teacher at the school she's happened to fall in love with, one who has a cool and stoic and cold vibe that's like... You know what, I get it. Yuna very much idolizes this teacher. She doesn't want to specifically get close to her, but rather wants to admire her from afar, and even with the silly and childish ways she can go about expressing her love, that admiration Yuna holds for someone else reminds Hase of her own love situation. A situationship with someone she is technically still roommates with, but has chosen to live her life traveling around the world, taking a different path from her, and ultimately leaving their relationship in this uncertain in-between that Hase hasn't known what to make of even years later. So in the end, she decides to be supportive of Yuna, not like actually rooting for her and that teacher to be a thing, cause that would be weird and junk, but rather supporting this young girl discovering herself and working through things that she isn't equipped to deal with on her own. This premise so far hasn't really been a romance, instead choosing to be about these two women in very different eras of their life, as the adult does her damnedest to help this kid through all her shenanigans. Yuna is often a confusing little gremlin in whatever scene she's in, having an incredibly expressive sense of youthful immaturity to her, but you can tell that to her, this is all serious and important. An example of this is when she needed advice on how she would give Valentine chocolates to Shiratori. It may sound like a silly thing to ask a teacher while in the faculty office, but for Yuna, it's a legitimate concern she's seeking guidance for. It's been stated that she's been largely absent from school and hasn't really found a place to fit in during her time there. She also doesn't know what to do with her life and feels pressured having to fill in those student surveys designed to plan out her life going forward. She's an incredibly funny and silly presence in the manga, but you have enough there to remind you that at her core is a lonely and confused kid, a queer kid at that. So I admittedly find it endearing how this queer adult will humor her even when she knows how much of a headache it can be in the long run. And Hase indeed captures that energy of an adult having to constantly deal with more than what she was emotionally ready for. She's often perplexed at the nonsense Yuna sends her way, or how awkward it is to deal with Shiratori's quiet nature. That constant clash between professionalism and being an internal mess is incredibly entertaining for me in particular. So I am constantly rooting for this woman to power through every dilemma she gets herself into, and how it all reminds her of her younger years, both as an artist and as her love for her partner originally blossomed. One of the biggest things these two have in common is their expressiveness, because man, do I absolutely adore the art and paneling of this manga. This author's previous work was Monthly in the Garden with My Landlord, another series I really enjoyed, and it's good to see how her art remains just as great as ever. The character designs hit this perfect blend of being detailed and unique, but retain simple and recognizable features that allow for a slew of expressiveness that really gets the most out of how characters are feeling. This especially goes true for Hase, whose visually loud emotions are always a treat with each chapter. And I don't know, I just love incredibly expressive adults. It's probably more common than I'm making that sound, I'm aware, but I'll still express appreciation regardless whenever it happens. The rest of the supporting cast isn't quite as expressive, but in the case of characters like Shiratori, this ends up making her stoic nature work even better, and it becomes even more comedic whenever it's clear her social skills may not be the best. The unfortunate reality for any of us who have ever felt cool or mysterious from the outside. For all you lovers of yearning and messy adults out there, I think you may find something to love here. There's really not that many chapters out, but everything I've read so far has been really promising, and it helps that I'm already a fan of this author's work. I know that paranoia for how some of these tropes are handled may make some people concerned, but I believe the manga has been very mature about its material so far, even with how much comedy they get out of the dynamics. It's cool, it's fun, it's about women who love, it's Yuri at the end of the day, and along with all the others I've talked about, I'm excited to see how this subgenre of storytelling will continue to progress as the passionate himojoshis of the world all put themselves in their art. Yuri is cool. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. Well, but that seems like a good place to call it for this video. I don't got much fancy to say this time other than the usual. Subscribe if you like what I do. I got numerous other videos about Yuri and other junk I made as well. I hope I can continue to entertain as I talk about whatever interests me at a given time. Yeah, you probably heard this before, maybe. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.